Okay, so welcome. Let me go here. Perfect. So welcome. Today is this fifth session, and the topic is conflict theory. We have a mandatory reading is see, right, means, situated action, and vocabulary of motif. So in terms of index, so I will get started by asking you two specific questions. The first question is, what do you know or what have you heard? What do you know or have heard about see white mean? Then the next question would be, what have you digest from the reading? And after that brief, listening to you, and I will go on my iPad to formally introduce to you the topic of conflict theory in contemporary sociology. Then I will do some kind of connection to explain to you that C. White's Mill ideas are quite similar to Alvin W. Gouldner ideas, so that in C. White Mill perspective on sociology, which is a critical perspective on sociology, one of the general idea I want you to take from today's class is C. White Mill. His sociology was inscribed against any kind of systemic and grand theory on society, any kind of structural functionalist perspective on society, and therefore C. White Mill sociology was inscribed against personization of sociology. So, and for doing so, I will use my formal lecture by stressing on the connection between conflict theory and what we have studied as reflexive sociology. So again, the idea that Talcott Parsons, not C. White Mill, the way that he reinterpret the work of Max Weber mainly to build his critical perspective on American sociology. Another general idea I want you to get from today's class is that C.W. means, or C. White's mean, he was a prolific and well-respected contemporary sociologist, and he was also anti-establishment. Again, C.W. means he was a well-respected sociologist, and he was anti-establishment. The same way that we studied in previous session that Alvin Ward Goodner criticized his peer for their ethical behavior. Also, C.W. Mills, he had many enemies because he used to criticize the American bureaucracy, including the educational system, including the own behavior, the own ethical work, ethical value, ethical behavior of his peer as faculty. So he had a lot of people who like him, a lot of people who hate him. And another idea that is also important is C. White Mill, he played a key role in what they would call the political consciousness, because it was since the 1940s, 1950s, so many activists, they stand against the system to fight for a dignified life, to repeat, the expression of Sarah, to fight for decency in society. So C.W. means through his scholarship, he actually helped to push forward the debate on decency in American society. So the idea that people have a dignity and how politics should be a means that works to dignify the life of the individual. So, and yeah, and some specific concept, for instance, the concept of vocabulary of motivation, as for students who took, who were enrolled, oh, I don't, sorry, for students, who were enrolled in classical with me, um, so I told them that many sociology, they use their own language. For instance, in CML stress a lot on the concept of association to refer to the social action. Emile Durkheim used a lot the concept of social fact, to refer to social phenomena. And Max Weber, he used concept of social action, and the concept of vocabulary of motivation was a concept that CW means use a lot through his academic in his academic scholarship. So without more introduction, so I would like briefly to hear from you about the first question. What do you know? Before you have to read this article that I asked you to do on see what it means. As student, most of you are majoring, to not say in all, are majoring in sociology. Um, have you heard before the name of see what it means? So what do you know previously to about CW Mills? Go ahead. Anyone?
I just know that in my introductory sociology class, a few years back, his name was mentioned as just kind of one of the contemporary sociologists, but I don't really remember. I
Oh,
think we went to.
I barely can hear you. You are very. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes. I can now.
Okay, I was saying that we kind of touched on him in one of my intro to sociology classes, but we didn't go super in depth. But I know that he is a contemporary. I knew that before we read.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Who else?
Um,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Like Micah said, in one of my intro to sociology classes, I think I read a excerpt from his sociological imagination,
Mm-hmm.
where he talked about like, although we like work and go to school and we participate in like daily like social activities, we don't really play a role in politics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he expressed that for us to like understand the situations that we live in, we
Mm-hmm.
have to have a sociological imagination.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Um,
perfect.
yeah.
That's what great. Thank you so much, Sarah. Who else want to add? Okay, so let's move quickly to the next question. What have you digest from the reading? What is your general opinion about the reading?
Um,
Yeah,
I was gonna say, that learning about like the motives and depending on like which area that person was, it was interesting finding that out that everybody had their social motives. Like when
mm-hmm.
I was reading it, they say motives are the terms which interpretation of conduct,
Mm-hmm.
a conduct by social actors
Mm-hmm.
proceeds. So like learning about like given the example from the reading, like business
Mm-hmm.
people, and just like learning about like the how their behavior and motives were like really interesting.
Thank you so much, Fatu. Who else want to add to that? Because I want after Fatu to help you to better understand. This is a very tough, thoughtful and important, relevant concept. I really want you, because if you didn't get that general idea connected to the idea of motive, you miss the general idea of the reason. It's my job to help you to better understand, to operationalize the concept of motive in CW means, rhetorical language. Who else want to add to that? Okay, so no one else. Okay, yeah. So let me try to let's start with first a brief introduction on means. So can you see this book that I am? Can you see the book?
Yes.
Okay, this is the sociological imagination that you refer. So, and this guy greatly influenced sociology, because now, guys, if you are a student, you go to any annual meeting of, let's say, the Eastern Sociological Society, or any kind of meeting, because we have, for instance, the Association for Interaction, Symbolic Interactionism, that is based, I think, here in New York. So if you are going to the American Sociological Association in any of their conference, you will hear reiteratively people talking about the sociological imagination, the sociological imagination, the sociological imagination. So, and people now, they equate the idea of sociological imagination with critical thinking. For instance, I have heard, a professor or myself, I have a student, please use your sociological imagination, So it's like, but it's because C. Weitzman, he actually greatly contribute in terms of the language, the codified language that we use in sociology. So this book was a groundbreaking book. I think that when he was first published, the book, I think it was first published in 1959, or maybe before 1959, because those books, they have had a lot of, um, re-edition. Let's see. The sociological imagination. Yeah, I think it was published first in 1959. So it's like just a great contribution of C. Weitzman. So people now in their day-to-day activities, they use sociological imagination. But in this book, he already explained, as Sarah said, what is sociological imagination, So what sociology should be very critic, and hold society, hold our institution, hold accountable our institution. So this guy, CW means, he was a great scholar who actually contribute to the orientation of contemporary sociology. Among his main publication, let's see, among his main publication, I would recommend you, because remember, my class is just to give you general ideas, but we cannot go in deep in every scholar we study. But he published a lot of books, and thousand and hundred an article. He published in, for instance, Sociology and Pragmatisms. He published Power, Politics, and People. He was one of the scholars who actually reintroduced Marxism in American sociology. And you see that Marxism, functionalists like Talcott Parson or even Robert K. Merton, they didn't really theorize on Marxism in American sociology. But C. Weitzman, he was someone, in terms of, if you would put him now, if he was still alive today, what would be his political affiliation, to give you a sense of uh, his ideas? He would be someone who would be side by side of with Bernie Sanders. So he was someone who actually created a journal they call the New Left. So he was someone he was a leftist scholar, a leftist sociologist. So he was anti-system, so anti-establishment. Okay, so he published in his book People, Power, and Politics. So for him, power should belong to the people, not to corporation. So he published in 1962 the Marxist Image of Man. He published in 1959 the Sociological Imagination, The Cause of World War III, The Power Elite, Character and Social Structure, White Collar, The American Middle Class, The Puerto Rican Journey, The New Man of Power, from Max Weber, Essay in Sociology. Actually, he translated many works of Weber from German into English. So C. White Smith, he is a very important figure in American sociology. So I want you to general idea to understand and contextualize C. White Smith work. So uh, for my student of classical theory, I studied with you that a scholar, his name was Joyce Simmel, right? And I told you that Simmel, who was born in 1858 and passed away in 1918, Simmel, he worked he theorized on the notion of conflict in society. Simmel, he had a double approach of conflict. He approached conflict from a macroscopic perspective and from a microscopic perspective. And in Simmel definition notion of conflict, Simmel was an anti-functionalist. So Simmel was an anti-system, as anti-establishment as well. So that's why I don't know if you recall, guys, that I told you, despite the fact that Simmel was a very brilliant scholar, the German academic community marginalized Simmel. So he had to leave Berlin and to accept a job at the l'Université de Strasbourg University in France. So, but Simmel, he was anti-establishment. And one of the Simmelian ideas that are important for us to understand C.W. Mills, in 1908, Joyce Simmel published a book titled Sociology, that is sociology in English. And in that book, there was a chapter on conflict, another chapter entitled The Problem of Sociology. In both chapters, the problems of sociology and conflict, Simmel Simmel shared the idea that society is made by dynamic, contradictory, and conflictive relationship. So if you get that idea, you get also C.W. Mills' ideas. So for Mills, effectively, society is made in contradiction. So you see, guys, we studied in past session the idea of structural functionalism, that we should obey the norm, follow the law, etc. With Shai Whiteman is a different alternative. For Shai Whiteman, contradiction is not something that is bad for society. Contradiction is part of the essence of society. So his sociology, if we want to catalog his sociology, he did what we call critical sociology. His sociology was a sociology produced anti the establishment. This is some general data, general context I would like you to get to understand C. Whiteman sociological perspective on society. His approach on sociology was a dialectical approach. For my student, again, who studied with me in classical, I help you to understand. I told you, for instance, Karl Marx, he read the work of George Hegel. And Marx, he took from George Hegel, let me put the name for students who weren't with me in classical, Karl Marx. Karl Marx, he relied on one important philosopher, George Hegel, right? George Hegel. And from Marx, um, taken from Hegel the idea of dialectic, right? So Hegel was a philosopher, and Marx would sociologize the concept of dialectic, because a dialectical relation is a relation between two, two opposite sides. So C. White's he also, through his sociological perspective, in sociology and specifically on American sociology, he presented a dialectical approach in American sociology. For him, for Mills, a social actor, I am a social actor. I am behind the screen, but I am a social actor because I'm contributing to your education. What I'm doing with you, I am providing you or helping you to have a different perspective on different topic, right? So I am a social actor. Even though we are not physically in a room at Brooklyn College, we are part of Brooklyn College, right? We are part of the institution, and you and I, we are in a building process of Brooklyn College. We are rebuilding Brooklyn College. So it's like we are deconstructing Brooklyn College education to reconstruct it in another way. So this is the idea. You and I, even though I am assuming that many of you, I will say everyone is taking note on I don't know, their computer, their yellow pad, their notebook, I don't know. So I'm assuming that even though you are not, I am the one who is speaking now. So you are in a certain position that others will say, oh, they are passive now. But you are not passive because you are taking note, you are listening to me, and after you will be engaged in a certain conversation, in a certain dialectical relation with me, because student, you know, could be agree with me, and student could have disagreement with me, and both are okay. Remember last class, the dialectical approach we have, and the debate between you, between Rachel and others. So even though you are not speaking, but even though you think you are assuming a passive, you are in a passive situation, you are not that passive, because you are taking note. Even though you don't speak today in my class, you are not passive, because ideas that you are taking from today class, you will use them, or in other class engaging with other person, or in your cycle, your peers, your family, your work, or with in the society at large. So for CW means the social actor is a creator of the social structure. So the structure is not something that is out there and we cannot, move any structure. So and for him, we are not passive, we are active, we are actor. So, and the idea that Fatu expressed, the idea of motivation. So sorry. So let's say, before going to the idea of motivation, when I said that CW means he cultivates, now he presented a dialectical approach on society. But what is a dialectic? What dialectic stands for? So when we say dialectic in sociology or in philosophy, dialectic is a way of thinking, to imagine the world through processes, through relationship, and through contradiction. Those without relationship, there is no social world, right? Without relationship, there is no such thing that we call the social world. The social world is made by our imputation, our motivation, our action, because the idea of motive, imputation imply the idea of social action that C. Weitzman, he analyzed as vocabulary of motive. Our imputation, our social action, we are acting, we are impute, we are putting our input in the system. Now in my class, you are putting your input because I can see the way that Sarah and Fatu, they uh, um, comment, they commented in the class. So in the case of Sarah, Sarah said, oh, I recall some note that I read from the book, The Sociological Imagination. So it's not directly from the article that I asked her to read, but from chapters, ideas that she took from that book, and she made that great comment. And Fatu, based on this reading the article, the way that she explained to us the idea of motivation, and I will make that more explicit for you. So in an institution, we cannot have an homogeneous perspective on people because people action is are conditioned by different type of motivation. But before going into the explanation of motivation, let's get the concept of dialectic in sociology. What is something that is dialectic? I said dialectic is a way of thinking. So first you are thinking because in back in the debate on modernity, um, René Descartes, because I'm pronouncing his name in French because he's in French, but let me put the name on the chat for you so you can have that. René, let's see, René Descartes. René Descartes, he said, cogito ergo sum. Cogito ergo sum. Remember, my idea is to help you to better understand the concept of dialectic in both classical and contemporary sociology, even in the debate in philosophy. René Descartes, he published a work titled Le discours sur la méthode, The Discourse on Method. In that book, Le discours sur la méthode, on discourse on method, he said the book was written in Latin. That's why I am sharing the quote in Latin. Cogito ergo sum. I think that we translate in English, I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum, René Descartes. And René Descartes is is one of the those scholars that we need to read to better understand Western modernity from a long durée perspective, from a long duration perspective. So René Descartes said, cogito ergo sum. I, I think, therefore I am. So I said dialect is a way of thinking. So the individual is able to think for himself. So you know what is good for you, what is good for your community. You know when to follow the norm and when to not following the norm. It's not always true that you have to follow the norm. And when you are not following the norm, instead of labeling you as pathological, as someone who is outside society, the question should be why you are not following the norm. So again, in the idea of dialectic, I said CW means he had a dialectic approach on society. Dialectic means way of thinking. You are a thinker, you are a social actor, you are not an idiot, you are not a passive actor. Now you are taking note, you are listening to me, but those ideas, they will make their way in your head. So, and will change the way you have seen or you have think about things. So processes, is processes, relationship and contradiction. So the world is okay in a world to have contradiction. So, and in the word of CW means, he said that it's important to have contradiction because things weren't okay. For instance, in this book, The Sociological Imagination, you know, he had a chapter, the fifth, oh, 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 okay, thank you, Aida. Thank you. Okay, thank you for letting me know it. For instance, in the book, The Sociological Imagination, the fifth chapter is titled The Bureaucratic Ethos. In French, l'éthique bureaucratique. In Spanish, la ética burocrática. He was someone concerned with ethics in society. Are we doing things in the ethical way? So if you see that something is unethical, it's okay to call out that thing. It's okay to have those contradictions. It's okay to have debate on what is going wrong in society, what is going on and what is going wrong in society. So his perspective was a dialectic perspective in society. That's why many scholars ascribe him to a perspective we call critical sociology. And his work also are very important. That's why I put him first when this is an introduction to sociology of conflict. That's why I want you to read him first as a scholar whose work is very important. I cannot answer that the call. Someone is calling me from Haiti, but I cannot answer that person. Yeah, so sorry about that. So his work is important for a better understanding of conflict in society, because the world from a dialectical perspective, the world is not only made by big structure, but also by processes, dynamics, consensual and conflictual relationship. So this perspective, the CW means, is not a perspective only you, Aida and I, you, Sabrina and I, you, Fatu and I, you, Alia and I, Ryan and I. We have to look for what is, what is the way to have always only consensus. In my class, for instance, it's okay to accept ideas from each other, but to not accept also ideas from each other, because the world we should be engaged in the world in the duality, consensus versus dissensus. Okay, dissensus is conflict. So, and there are certain quotes from that reading, that express very well what I am, that translate very well the general ideas I'm sharing with you. For instance, in the reading, I highlight when he wrote, human actor do vocalize. You see, vocalize came from Latin vox. We say vox populi Dei. The voice of God is the voice of the people. You see, human actor do vocalize. So if you use your voice, it's because you have language, right? That's why in the reading, CW means he spent a lot of time engaging in how do we build language? What is the role of language? So what is the role of language in society? What is the role of language for social relation? So one of the first idea that he put, and I would like to highlight that for you to help you to better understand the content of the reading, is when he said human actor do vocalize and impute motives to themselves and to others. When we say impute, so it's like to put pressure to do a action. An imputation implies action. Social imputation implies social action. So the individual, we are not anymore in that perspective that the individual is an idiot. the individual, the big structure, your institution decide for you, your family decide for you, your family decide who you should get married to, your family decide, you know, which major you should study. Yes, it's okay to receive advice from your family, but you cannot, it's not good for you to accept that your family say you should do such major when you don't have any emotional connection. You don't have, you know, you don't like that because society, your parents, your husband, not husband, but maybe husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend advise you to do such thing because of money, because it will give you money, it will help you to, it's a means to get money. We will get to that idea because it's one of the critiques that C.W. Mills in his sociological thinking he addressed to American society, the place of money in American society. So he said,
Professor,
yes, go ahead.
hi. So what do? You just, as a parent of grown children, what do? Just say, oh, if you don't like it, forget it, just don't do nothing. You can't live in a society and do nothing either. You have to participate in letting the world turn, You can't just do nothing. What do you do? As a parent, you give your children that advice. You tell them, look, you may not understand your direction, but here's a way I feel like, based on your childhood, what you might be able to do, what might work for you, you guide them, direct them. You can't just give them the option. Sometimes they don't even know. Some children don't even know till 24, 25 years old, and then the light bulb just clicks.
Yeah, great question, and I will answer it also, Rachel. Remember, the article I asked you to read, guys, was written and mostly published in 1940, right? Remember, the US, we are in 1940, we were already engaged in a global world. The world was, globalization was already there. Remember in 1940, the world was the experience of Nazism with Adolf Hitler, right? The rise of authoritarian regime. So to bring that, to connect your worries or your question, Rachel, to C.W. Mills' idea, what a parent should do, I said that you give advice, but you have to understand at home, Rachel, that is a more healthy family as an institution, in not impose on your children your own will, but provide them with advice. This is your role as parents, it's part of your social responsibility, but also be open-minded to listen to them, to accept also the difference, to actually accept that you can be wrong. You is not because you are the parents, you know what is best always for you give advice, but you have to understand your advice shouldn't be taken as imposition, Rachel.
Yes, I agree. Even though I am like that, yes, I agree.
Yeah, so but my Mills is not saying that you shouldn't do provide advice, but he's a human actor. Remember, your children also, they are actor. They are not just object. So this is a sociological perspective in which the individual is not the relation subject-object, but it's more a relation between subject and subject. Because the object, what used to be the object in positivist sociology, what used to be the object in functionalist sociology, now is still the subject. There is more empathy in that duality of relation between you and your children, Rachel. You use more communication. This is more a sociology to democratize. When I say democratize, I'm thinking about democratization. This is more a sociological theory that has been used as a tool to empower others, to empower civil society, to to work towards the construction of a more democratic society, a society in which the idea of communication, the idea of deliberation are broadly accepted and well integrated in society. So he said human actors do vocalize and impute motives to themselves and to others. This is a great idea, the idea of motives. How can we sociologize the concept of motive from C.W. Mills' sociological perspective? Remember, I told you that Mills, he translate, uh, he introduced, let's say, C. White Mills. C. White Mills, let's say, where did I put that? C. White Mills was a critical sociologist um, um, that who axiologically present a reflexive perspective on American sociology. So he was someone who also introduced Max Weber in American sociology. And some of his work are on Weber. For instance, in 1946, he and Heinrich Hans Goethe, they published a book titled From Max Weber, Essay in Sociology. Let me put that on the chat for you because it's important for the explanation I want to give you. Okay. C. Whiteman, and Hans Heinrich, I think Heinrich Hans Goethe. But even though Heinrich Hans Goethe, he used to use H.H. Goethe, but Heinrich Hans Goethe. They published in 1946 a book titled From Max Weber, Essay in Sociology. It was published in 1946. So this Weberian idea, because sometimes he used a lot of Weber, he reinterpret many ideas that Max Weber developed in his interpretive sociology. Remember, for students who took classical with me, we study in many sessions the work of Max Weber. For instance, I studied with you the work of Politics as Vocation, Politic as view of in Weber, Politics as Vocation. So for this idea to understand this quote, that human actors do vocalize and impute motive to themselves and to others, this is a very Weberian interpretation. And I have some note that I would like to share with you. What I wrote, I said, this is a very Weberian ideas. The ideas that of social imputation, that we as individuals, we can change a course of a social action to our imputation. Imputation means action. We are not anymore the individual who passively reproduces the norm. Again, the idea of motive and imputation. So imputation, motive of imputation, that is, so social imputation, so that we are not, is not passivity. We as individual, we are actor in a specific process. And we, through our vocabulary of motive, to our social action, we can change things. It's not that true that the structure is, something you cannot shake, you cannot do nothing, is not true. So the sociological perspective or means is very important. For instance, how can we translate the idea of motives? The idea of motives. Let's say that you are working for an institution, right? You have 15 people in the office, right? So Mills will ask, why amongst 15 people, why we have 10 people who are corrupted, who are stealing the resources of the institution, and we have in the same institution 5 remain people who are acting with ethics of responsibility. They are not following the path of those 10 who are, bad guys in the institution. So this is the idea of motivation. So to understand a social system, we have to ask about the motivation of the individual, because the individual, this is not a Durkheimian perspective, because in Durkheim, as we have seen with me, it's like a kind of supremacy of the system over the individual, because Durkheim said social facts are very rigid. That's why you see that Talcott Parson, he mostly embraced the work of Emile Durkheim. Why you can see C.W. Mills and other scholars, other sociologists such as Alvin Goldner, they more embrace the work of Max Weber, because Max Weber would ask us to ask the question, what about the motivation of the individual? Why you have good politicians and bad politicians, but not all politicians are bad. Because if we think on big generalization, and that's why for C.W. Mills, is impossible to have, based on empiricism and with the idea to produce big theory. Actually, in the sociological imagination, the second chapter of this book is titled Grand Theory. Grand Theory. That means is a critiques that C.W. Mills. If you read the book Sociological Imagination, the second chapter, the title of the second chapter is Grand Theory. He was against Grand Theory because there is a danger if we want to understand social system based on grand theory, because we will miss the motivation. We will need, that component. Because why we have AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, why we have Bernie Sanders, and why we have Chuck Schumer, why we have Andrew Cuomo, why we have Ted Cruz, why we have Mitt Romney. Every one of those politicians is different one from another. So it's important to understand the social system. We need to understand the vocabulary of motivation of those individuals, the way they interact in and outside institution, the way they interact with the society at large. So this idea
Professor.
of, yes, go ahead.
Hi, I need to interrupt. I'm so sorry. You were saying about 10 people working as a staff and
Yes.
5 are not corrupted like the other 10. But, I always go by a saying that says corruption corrupts all, right? Eventually, those 5 will be corrupted. Eventually. Doesn't mean because the 5, if the majority is corrupted, then the system is not working, right? So let's say, for example,
got you.
Wait.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What about
Yeah,
Ocasio?
continue.
Mitt Romney's corrupted, Ted Cruz is corrupted, Chuck Schumer, they're all corrupted. So what? Ocasio's in the beginning of it. How do you know she's not going to be corrupted? But her one lone voice, is it going to help the other 50 that are corrupted? It doesn't make a difference.
Oh, sorry, give me 1 second. So I don't know why the many things I sent to my class went to only Aida. Sorry about that. Aida, it's just now that I read that. Okay. So sorry.
And,
Now
and I have also something that I don't understand part of the reading. If you could just,
no, but no,
I mean, I
no,
understand.
don't miss the finger. Hold on. Let's go
Okay.
first with the idea of the what you say. So
Corruption corrupts all.
yeah, but guys, what is your take on that? Because I have my own opinion. But what is your take? What's your reaction vis-a-vis Rachel appreciation? In an institution, if one is corrupted, you think that all will be corrupted.
No, I feel like if majority is
Uh-huh.
corrupted,
Uh-huh.
then who cares about the little guys? That the
Uh-huh.
majority rules, right? So if the majority is corrupt.
Okay, so but yes, I have my own viewpoint, but I want to hear from your classmates because it's a class of debate. It's social theory, it's association, it's socialization, it's social interaction. What do you think, guys, about Rachel? Do you agree, disagree? Ah, who want to say?
It's a very hard question because not, a lot of people don't have experience with politics. A lot of these young kids are new to, young. So I have many years behind me, and I've seen many
Okay.
corrupted, and I think they all are.
Yeah, but yeah, it seems that
I
someone.
feel like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like yes, there's corruption and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, people are not gonna pay attention to the small guy. But if majority of the people agree to the small person and support that person becomes a big person. So for example, like AOC, a lot of people support AOC and she has a voice and she has a platform, right? So I feel like sometimes people think the person can be a small person, but not really. If majority of the people obviously support the small guy, so-called.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Fatu. So
He's right. However,
so hold on, Rachel. Hold on, guy. There are other students. So Tabitha, you said I'm very much into politics, but what was the main point? The main point I am explaining to you guys, reinterpreting CW means he said that human actors, you can see the quote, human actors said do vocalize and impute motive to themselves and to others. So what I was doing that led us to that debate is explaining the concept of motivation that in throughout the reading, for instance, CW means use the term vocabulary of motive. So I was explaining, or I explained that in an institution, so we shouldn't do generalization, for instance, on corruption, because you can have in an institution 10 person working uh, and adopting unethical behavior, for instance, stealing money or stealing resources of the institution, and you have 5 other people who are acting with ethics of responsibility. So, and that's what led us to that debate. From Rachel, if the vast majority are like, say, 10 are corrupted and only 5 is not corrupted, for Rachel, she didn't see how the problem can fix since the majority is corrupted. So that's why I opened the floor for debate. So if you have something you want to say, Tabitha, go ahead, because I will provide my own idea in this debate.
I believe that, I mean, you said that if 10 people were corrupted and 5 wasn't corrupted, then Rachel was saying that it can't be fixed. However, I feel like the only way to fix that is just to get those corrupted people out of there. And I know that's not going to be easy because it seems like everybody is corrupted. But yeah, I feel like the only solution is to get those corrupted people out of there, or have other people run for high positions that require like that, like like lawmakers and stuff, like politicians. That's like another way to have like younger people maybe run and just really have like a what's that called, like a network where people are able to like express concerns and talk about these type of corruptions, and like have people that are like neutral kind of, so you won't just have like one side like arguing or like promoting their corruption.
Okay, so this is my okay, thank you, Tabitha. Now is my opinion on the topic, you know. So actually I highlight not only one quote but four quotes that deal with the idea of motives. The second quote is when he wrote, rather than fixed element in an individual, motive are the term which with interpretation of conduct by social actor proceeds. And third, we must indicate mechanism of the linkage of vocabulary of motive to system of action. And finally, he wrote, institutionally different situations have different vocabulary of motive appropriate to their respective behavior. So Rachel, what is my take on this? I think that the fact that we have 5 people who are not corrupted, this is hope. This is hope, and this is a very strong signal that we can achieve change. Because to change a situation, to change a reality, to change an institutional reality, we cannot do that without vocabulary of motive. And those 5 people, they are doing things that are very important for the survival of the system. And that idea, you can translate it into economics, into politics. So yes, there are 10 people who are adopting unethical behavior, but if we have 5 people who are doing those good things, there is a chance that the institution can survive and the institution can improve. So to translate that, let's put it in the, let's take an example of the schooling system, right? So let's say you are taking 5 classes this semester at Brooklyn College. But in your 5 classes, there are 3 professors you think do not take seriously the job. They are not committed to students. They are unprepared and blah, blah, blah. But there are 2 professors who you think are totally different than the 3 others professors. Rachel, so if you are taking 5 classes, 3 professors you think are not competent or are not committed to student or yeah, or are not prepared, and 2 you think are the contrary. Question for you, what would be your behavior? Do you continue to show up in those classes, or you just say, oh, this institution is bad, I won't continue anymore with my education?
So I do have a situation like that, and because of that, I will not be taking my master's in CUNY. I feel like there was a lot of things that were not right in CUNY, not you, but there were other professors that did behave in that manner, that did not care, and and so because of that, I won't continue my graduate program here in CUNY, or maybe this CUNY, I don't know about the other ones. So again, when one does it, the other one they'll get used to it, and then they'll do it, and then it just rolls over. Those 5 are so minimum that by the time you even get, the savior of the school, all the other ones destroyed the name and nobody cares for it. And so the whole institution just got destroyed because of those 10, and the 5 didn't do enough or couldn't do enough or participated enough to push those other 10 out, the bad 10 apples. You understand? So
yes,
the
okay, got
destruction
you.
was there.
Yeah, since I have many things to discuss with you guys, so we cannot, eternize on the topic. So, but for CW means the prestige of an institution is not, we cannot approach that with, a pessimistic view. yes, those two professors, so CW means will say, this is hope in the institution, because we will have more students who want to take classes with those two good professors, and the three bad professors, not only they would have less and less students because of the institutional reputation, but also the institution should use some mechanisms, as some students said, to hold those professors accountable. But it's not because you in an institution you have 10 people who are corrupted. You can say the Senate, you can say the US Congress, anything. Those individuals who have different motive, different vocabulary of motive, they are greatly contributing to, because an institution is built, an institution is made through our imputation. So they are putting themselves in a position to change the institution, to change the institutional framework. Despite the fact sometimes people who are working, since they are in the majority, you think their work is not worth. But according to CW means, yes, it's a very important work, because through them, through the imputation, the social change will come, not through the behavior of the 10 corrupted people. The 10 corrupted people, there should be mechanisms to punish them and to kick them out of the institution. But we cannot close the institution because of them. And what about those who are really working on the ethical manners to change the reality of the institution? Okay, so, but is the general, this is the, because what led me to
Professor, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What you see the quote right here where it says rather than fixed elements? I don't understand the quote written by C. Wright Mills. Can you like explain it?
Which one?
Can you, where it says rather than fixed elements in an individual? The second one. Can you explain? Because I'm not understanding what C. Wright Mills is saying here.
Okay, when he say motive are the term which interpretation of conduct, right, by social actor proceeds, right? Right, Diane?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and this is what I just explained. Motives, the motives are the term which interpretation of conduct are, because I said, in order to understand a reality, an institutional reality, for instance, you have to understand the motivation. Why Professor Saint Paul is acting like this, why other professor is acting like that, because to understand my motivation, you cannot do that, Diane, through statistic. You cannot do that through census. So C. Whitesmill, he advocate also to use biography, to go and speak to the individual. He resituate, relocate the actor at the center, the cornerstone of the social action. So this is very anti-functionalist. Let's say, I think I wrote something about that when I say this is very, so we must indicate mechanisms of the, for instance, when he say we must indicate mechanism of the linkage of vocabulary or motive to system of action. So I wrote, this is a very anti-functionalist and anti-Parsonian perspective. So CW means base himself on an interpretive approach to understand, that is important to understand the real motivation of the individual. This is a sociological theory that should explore the connection between vocabulary of motive of the individual and the system of social action. So let me actually translate again in a more simplistic way those abstract concepts. So motivation is key here Diane, to understand motive, he said, rather than fixed element in an individual, motive are the term which interpretation of conduct by social actor proceed. So if we say, so all human beings, all black people are bad, all black people are criminal, this is a very functionalist and racist statement about black people. Or you can say any statement about Jewish people or any statement about Asian American. Let's say, oh, every Asian American people, they have the mindset of an entrepreneur. They are very good with business. So we don't know until we speak to them. You cannot say that black people, they like also to spend a lot of money on Nike, on things, very pricey things. So yes, many have that tendency, but you cannot do generalization. This is like a kind of a caution that CW means asks us to do, to not do generalization, and to, if we want to study the human being, we cannot take out his language, Diane. The people, we should speak to the people because the people have language. And if we don't use that language to understand their motivation, why you didn't participate in such thing, while others in your own institution are doing the same thing. So this idea is a very Weberian idea, because remember, for Weber defines sociology as a science that try to understand social action through the motivation, and he said motivation of subjective meaning, something like this. So the idea here, if you don't understand at all Max Weber sociological theory, it will be hard to understand CW means. The key here, Diane, is your motivation. Why, for instance, why I have to teach every Monday and Wednesday from 12:25 to 2:05, right? By the way, what time is it? Okay, so to 2:05, right? But if Diane, she has a routine, she usually connects since 12:25, right? But if one day I realize that Diane show up at 1:30, right? So I cannot assume, I can assume that you have a problem, but I cannot know that's that problem until I speak to you, until we have a certain exchange of email and blah, 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 So this is the same thing. The same things like your motivation. The motivation is something that is very subjective to you, right? But it's very important for me to understand your behavior objectively, Diane. You understand that?
Yeah, I understand right now.
Okay, so
thank you for explaining it.
yeah, okay. So remember, today is, I just start with CW means. Today is the introduction of conflict theory. So everything that I explained to you is to make you mindful that CW means is very important in those school of conflict theory, anti-establishment sociology, and anti-functionalist sociology, and anti-Parsonian sociology. So now let me try to go on the former reading lecture, but even I just have on less than just 15 minutes left. So, but let me at least start for in that formal introduction for you, and we will continue. Next class. So I would, this is in my syllabus. So I would, and I'm quoting myself. Contemporary sociological theory is, for many reasons, a very interesting field of teaching and research. It has been progressively developed during a long historical period made up of, now I don't need that PowerPoint anymore. Let me stop that. Yeah, so I
Are you
will.
reading from the article from the book?
No. This is my
Oh.
no. This is my reading from my iPad, my lecture from my iPad. So, but it's part on the, what I'm reading is on the syllabus, in the first page of the syllabus. So contemporary social theory is, for many reasons, a very interesting field of teaching and research. It has been progressively developed during a long historical period made of different historical moments, crafted themselves by his different school of thought, paradigm, and perspectives. The Atlanta School, the School of Chicago, critical theory, the Frankfurt School, the School of Dependence, pragmatism, functionalism, structural functionalism, conflict theory. So the idea I want you to get, so from today, we just start to explore a new school of thought in contemporary sociological theory, which is conflict theory. As the social theories, one of the idea of conflict theory is like the social theories, like you and me, oftentimes is motivated by his subjective condition and his conflict toward a certain social reality. Again, for instance, for you, Diane, you are a woman, gender, right? So you define yourself in terms of ethnicity. You define yourself as a, I don't know, brown woman. Okay, let's put it that way. You are a woman, gender. You are a brown woman. You know, this is your ethnicity, the way you introduce yourself in society. So those things, your class status, you know, you are a student. This is the status. I am a professor. We have different status. So all those things play or condition the way you see the social reality. You don't see the social reality through my lens because I'm not a female. First, I am a male. We don't have the same gender, right? And we don't have the same social status. You understand that? So your subjective condition and your conflict toward the social reality. So if I want to understand, for instance, a social problems you might encounter, I cannot provide the same explanation to understand the social, let's see, let me pick someone else. Let's see, I cannot use the same ideas, the same explanation to understand Michel Watorek, you know, situation in society. Because despite the fact that both are women, but you are not in the same location, in the same setting. So conflict theory actually pay a great deal to the idea, to the condition, to your subjective condition because without understanding your subjective condition, there is no way to objectively understand it. So your subjective condition, your objectivity is tied to your subjective condition because objectivity is a intersubjective agreement. So there is no equality because of that. No, actually, the concept. This is a concept that we use in political theory and in theory of citizenship, Rachel. Is not. We call that differentiate equality or complex equality. So there is, but those concepts I cannot explain them to you because they are not part. This is not a class of this is not a class of political theory. So there was a scholar, his name is Michael Walzer. So Michael Walzer, he published a book titled Sphere of Justice. The Sphere of Justice, and in which Michael Walzer would explain the idea of complex equality. You in a society you can have equality, but based on heterogeneity, not on homogeneity. Because Rachel is we cannot have a society equal for Rachel and Ryan and Sabrina and Aliyah and Jennifer and Mandy and Diane and Princess and Ember and Aida and Michelle and Amaya and Shana, because they are not in the same setting, in the same location. We shouldn't have an homogeneous perspective on equality. Equality shouldn't be based on homogeneity, but rather equality should be based on difference. Okay, but this is not the topic of my class, because this is not a class of political theory. Those topics, you explore them in political theory. So my concept is conflict theory. So conflict theory, to understand one of the key ideas in conflict theory, is commonly the social theorist is trying to reduce the tension between a social event or process that he takes to be real and some value which these have violated. So conflict theory, there is tension between you as individual and the social system. And as I said earlier, using the Marxist concept of dialectic, this is okay for you as individual, as social actor, to conflict against the system. Because Joyce Simmel, that I studied with you, Simmel said conflict is important for the expression of our individuality. Conflict is not bad for society. Conflict is okay because we cannot fix any problems without conflict, because it's with conflict that we express our fear, our anger, our disappointment against the system. It's not through consensus we do that. We do that through conflict. For instance, very soon will be the 1 year, first anniversary of the killing of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, right? So, but when those disruptions occur in the system, society at large, the individual, because society is made by individuals, society at large express their anger, their frustration against the system in order to find certain technique, method, strategy to fix those problems. So conflict is a technique that you use to fix problems. It's not necessarily true that you and I, we have to agree in everything, because if there are certain things that bother me, I should be expressed to, I should be able to express them. And if with the expression of those things that are not good for me, that we can fix them. So this is a very important idea in conflict theory. But conflict theory, as you will see in further sessions, conflict theory is also close to what we studied with me as reflexive sociology. This is what I would. Reflexive sociology is conflictive by nature. So when we are talking about conflict theory, the work of C.W. Mills is important not only to think conflict theory, but also his sociology was a reflexive sociology, as we studied with Alvin W. Goultner. And because you as reflexive actor, you have your reflexivity. You are not an idiot. Let me read for you because I think the time is almost there. So what I would, reflexive sociology is conflicted by nature. So, and um, for instance, Simmel, in the chapter that is titled The Problem of Sociology that I told you, that was published in 1908, Simmel wrote, and I'm quoting him, "Men may escape tragedy when they recognize that they need not allow themselves to be assimilated to the cultural mask. When they insist that is key who are the measure and who do the measuring, one man with or one man against other men, and not one man against the standard of culture and the requirement of words." So this idea of is important to understand C.W. Mill perspective on society. So in some context, you know, based on your vocabulary of motive, you can see if you are with others or if you are against others. When you are with others, that express consensus, but it's also important when you are against others. Against, so with others, against others is different kind of motivation. So the vocabulary of motive is not the same if you agree with me. And your vocabulary of motive is not the same if you are in disagreement with me. So this is my general way to introduce, C.W. Mills, a very important sociology that you should read more his work and reflect on his work. So it's 2 p.m. So I just have 2 minutes for a quick comment and then to take the screenshot to let you go. So Princess, Mendy, Emba, Aida, Amaya, Shana, Cindy, Jennifer. Okay, you don't have any question, Aida said. So I know that you don't really like to speak, Aida, right? Okay, Alia, Sarah, Fatu, clear. Okay.
I just got a comment. I don't have a question.
Yeah,
So
go
like
ahead. Go ahead.
so like the vocabulary motive it depends on where you're at and who are you socializing with for it to be like for it to have a motive, if that makes sense. Like, am I correct or am I
So
wrong?
it's also informed by your, socialization, your ideology, your world vision, your perspective on life, on, your perspective on the social system itself.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But those concepts are very complex. But I know that the reading was not that easy to digest, but I prefer to do it like this because, I offered to Fatu the opportunity to read C.W. Mills firsthand and not to read someone who actually interpret C.W. Mills and will tell you what he think you should think about C.W. Mills, Fatu, right? So it's not, yeah, so I know those reading, they are tough. That's why you have to really be engaged with those reading because those, as I said in my syllabus, I offer students the opportunity to read the classic firsthand, not reading interpretation, because when you and we read, I have my interpretation, you can agree or disagree, oh, something wasn't clear at all for you, I help you to clarify them. But let's say I just pick a chapter of a textbook on C.W. Mills, but the guy, he has his own opinion on C.W. Mills. So the way that the guy will interpret vocabulary of motive is not necessarily true. What C.W. Mills want to say, Fatu. That's why I know it's complex reading, but is worth to do it, because you are learning from the key author, is not through interpretation of interpretation. Okay.
Professor,
Yes.
Yeah, I get
how would you interpret reading from 1940 society to today's society? How do you interpret that into today's society? I know it's a very complex question, but
Okay, it's a very complex question. We have two
Sure.
minutes left, but I will do my best in 1 minute to explain that to you. Remember, when you interpret, you just take a concept. And remember, a concept was produced in a context. Remember, but a context, because a concept, you have to dehistoricize the concept and rehistoricize the concept, decontextualize the concept and recontextualizing it. And we have to understand, and I explained that also in social theory and classical social theory, that society is made of two components, Rachel: the social static and the social dynamic, right? And we will reinterpret that based on the idea we understand that all society are inscribed into a process of social metamorphosis or social transformation. So when we use a concept, we use the concept not in the sense that the scholar used it in 1940, but try to connect. That's why I am using Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm using case of Bernie Sanders, Mitt Romney, Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, to make you understand a concept that, for instance, C.W. Mills used to understand the political behavior of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, of Rockefeller, of the institution Harvard professor, Columbia professor back in the 1930s, the Great Depression in 1929. So I'm not taking the same example. I'm trying to, we call that you travel with the concept. Your capacity, the ability of your instructor to connect the concept to your current reality. Because if you don't connect theory with practice, theory is not worth. Theory is not you produce, you reflect on theory for the sake of theory, Rachel. So you do that by connect the theoretical explanation with what is happening in the ground currently, what is happening empirically in our current society.
but what if Mills didn't agree with what your interpretation is?
But yes, he actually is, because science, progress in tension,
Right.
science operates with trial and error and rectification. So, but Mills, actually, that's why that's a great debate on classics. Why do we need the classics? Because Mills, he's not alive anymore. So we are, as social actor, we can do whatever we want. But actually, by reinterpreting his work, we are keeping him alive.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Let me take the screenshot, and I will see you on Wednesday.
I'm sorry, I do this every week to you.
Okay,
But I just wanted to have a little extra understanding of,
yeah,
classical.
it's because also it just now that, oh, sorry guys, don't disconnect yet, because I didn't do it well.
I
It's
think
because
one person did.
it's because it's now you are taking classical, Rachel. This is the problem. So
Yeah, the director over there told me to take it both at the same time. I mean, it's not my major, it's only my concentration.
okay,
So it's not like I have a dissertation to do or none of that. I took it
okay,
together.
guys, I think that I took the screenshot. So take care, and I will see you on Wednesday.
I
Okay.
had a question
Bye, Professor. Thank you.
on the thing that we have to do in March. Is it has to be 48 to 50 to an hour? Like we have to do it for 1 hour? Um, the
Uh,
presentation?
yes, it says between 30 minutes and 45 minutes.
No, 30 to 45. Can it be like any videos or
Yeah, everything, Rachel, you should read the syllabus, because what you are asking me, all the responses are in the syllabus. Read the syllabus, the class syllabus.
In the syllabus? Okay, because I read
Yes, it's in
the
the
email that
syllabus.
you gave.
Read the
Okay.
class syllabus and you get the answer, Rachel.
Professor,
Okay.
I didn't receive the email.
Which email?
About like our group and all of that.
Okay.
I
If
didn't
you
receive
didn't
that.
receive yet, it's because you are not part of group 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm working on those email for you guys, for the others groups. Okay, don't worry. You will get those email on time, to get enough time to get ready and to work with your partner to do the presentation. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, Professor. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.